Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Holy Triduum at St. Thomas Parish in Crystal Lake. A special hello to the RCA candidates and catechumens who will, in 48 hours or so, be receiving with us and be received into the fullness of the Catholic Church. To any visitors or guests, to anyone who may have lost a loved one in the current year, this is really a date to reflect on so many things and to really, again, reassess our priorities and try as best as we can to make Christ first. In today's gospel, Christ says, do you understand what I'm doing? Yes, we're trying, Jesus, we are. You're trying to get us to understand more deeply the mercy the Father has for us. You're getting us to more deeply experience and encounter your loving gaze. You're trying to get us to become more faithful and caring for our neighbor and our brother and our sister, and for the less fortunate. Today's a special day. Today, over 3,000 years ago, under the same moon, remember the date of Easter changes in the Latin Rite Church. It follows the first full moon of the spring equinox. Under the same moon, under slavery in Egypt, under Pharaoh, Moses broke bread and a lamb was slain. Almost 2,000 years ago, under the same moon, Jesus became our lamb, and 17 hours before he died, he entered the Passover supper, the perpetual memorial feast of the Jews. Very strict. They adhered to this, the religious Jewish people, the people God first spoke to, adhered to the Passover supper religiously, conscientiously, strictly. You weren't to miss it. They'd throw you out. You can get back in, but it was a perpetual institution to be celebrated, and it was extraordinarily important. The people showed up. Jesus entered that Passover supper, and he conformed it into him being the Lamb. 17 hours before he died, his immortal words are said every time we go to Mass. I am the Lamb. I am the true bread that came down from heaven. This is my body. This is my blood. This is the only Mass the priest gets where he's told what to preach on. How about that? It's the only Mass. The church tells the priest what to preach on. It says to the priest, you preach on 3 points. The Holy Eucharist, the priesthood, and the washing of the feet. So, Father Simon told me this and I wrote it down. Because the church told you to preach on this, I'm trying to read his handwriting. I cannot just ramble on, browbeat, harass, and attempt to conjoin tangents, mostly futile. I can't read the rest of his handwriting. I'm sure it's not flattering. So we have 3 points. Let's get them straight on Holy Thursday. The Holy Eucharist, the foot washing, and the priesthood. First of all, I can't begin to tell you, just shaking hands with people walking in, how honored I am to be the main celebrant at this Mass at St. Thomas. How honored, humbled I am to be offering Mass with Father Simon and Monsignor. Monsignor's been in this parish since 2001, July 1st. So I've been a priest since 99. So as long as I've been a priest, almost, he's been in this parish. I am unbelievably grateful to him and to all of you and to Father Simon to be a priest. I heard it said in Prague by a priest. I was trying to catch up to this priest. It was about 90 degrees out, and I finally caught up to him. And he was a monk. He was a priest with a cassock, and he had all the bling. You ever see those Orthodox guys with the bling? They look like they're rappers with a cassock. And I said, "Are you a priest?" And he stopped me. And he looked me dead in the eyes with the most serious look. And he says, "I am a priest, and I am a monk." And I was a priest at the time. I said, "How long have you been a priest?" And I've lived, I hope I've lived this. What I'll never forget that he said to me, "Longer than I deserve." I've been a priest longer than I deserve. It's an unbelievable gift. And I pray, God, that with your prayers, I treat it as such. and it's an honor being a priest with these men. The first point I want to make is the Holy Eucharist. Always connect Mass with Calvary. Mass with Calvary. We kill Christ. They misspoke. Those who fell away from us. Christ was killed once on Good Friday, but his death is made present sacramentally. Under the appearance of wine and bread, he comes back to us. He brings redemption forward. Always connect that. Always think, I don't ever want to get tired of saying Mass, I don't want to get tired of saying this. God, thank you for dying on the cross for me, a sinner. Thank you. I don't want to get tired of saying that. The purpose of the Christian life is not just to be ethical and to be nice and to be simple. The entire purpose of the Christian life is to share in the all-consuming fiery love of God that we receive in Holy Communion. That's the purpose. And to wash your neighbor's feet. To be divinized. It's a beautiful word. That monk who turned out to be the secretary of the Archbishop of Sinai, who was the translator when Pope John Paul II went to Sinai to visit in Egypt, back when you could actually do things like that, when it was more safe. They talked about God became one of us so we can become more like him. Think better of yourselves. Don't limit yourself with a faulty imagination. God is calling you to be great. God is calling you to be whole. God is calling you to be holy. God is calling of all of us to enter into a more fullness of life. Two things came from confessions. This is not an exaggeration. Between the three priests, over the last 2 weeks, easily 1,000 confessions. Between three of us. I don't have a number. I don't count numbers. And I'm not revealing anybody's sins. But two things strike me with church-going Christians who go to good people. At times, the lack of joy. The worriness and the burdensomeness of life just weighs on them. We're Christians. Because when Senior loves to say, if you're joyful, let your face know it. If you still practice confession, you got an advantage. We're a blessed group. We're elect. We're not arrogant or righteous. We've been called. We've been chosen. So please, for the love of God, pray the Holy Spirit to bring out from you more joy. If we're going to grow our numbers, it's going to be through a confident joy. It's going to be through an ever greater trusting in God's mercy and love. And the second one was grudges and people hanging on to past hurts. I bring this to your attention. I'll tell you why. Because if we're going to be divinized, if I'm going to become more like Jesus Christ, if I consent, if of my free volition and free will decide I do want to be more like Jesus Christ, I got to give him room to operate. If I'm carrying a deep-seated wound or a hurt or some kind of unforgiveness, technically speaking, spiritually, theologically, he's got that much less room to move into my soul and to occupy. I got to decrease with my ego and my selfishness and my false desires and passions so that he can increase. So if you're still hurt or wounded or something is weighing heavily upon you, would you call Father Simon to work it out? He can help you. He's got a lot of free time. I just say that because we want more Christ. We want more Christ. Being nice is great. But I'm not so sure I want it on my tombstone. I would love on my tombstone someone who was consumed by the love of God and loved his neighbor. Now, we're going to wash feet very shortly. In years past, Father Simon does the Easter Vigil. Why? Because he's in charge of RCIA. So when Senior and I switch off on Holy Thursday and Good Friday. On Holy Thursday, I can tell you, he loves it as much, he loves it more than I do. And he loves definitely more than me washing your feet. I'm just letting you know. I'm going to do a little pour. He used to get down, and with real devotion, this guy's a humble man. With real devotion. Like scrub. And I saw some of those feet. I don't know, Monsignor. This isn't the best idea. I don't know. That guy over there, I saw a commercial. You might want to give him a call. There's something going on over there, twisting around. I don't know. But, he would do it. He did it with devotion. And it's a symbol, obviously. What is it a symbol of? John incorporates this in the Last Supper narrative. Instead of telling you he took the bread and broke it in John, he says, no, he put a towel around his waist. And as St. Paul said, he lowered himself. He came down from heaven, took the form of a slave. He showed us he came to serve. And not to sit at the head of the table and serve me. Peter says, I'm not going to let you do this. No, Peter, you're going to let me. You have no part of me if you don't let me do this to you. Monsignor would do it in the Mass, symbolically representing what Jesus did. Symbolically representing what we're all supposed to do. But he does it outside these doors. Consistently. Conscientiously. Another hospital visit. Another confession. Another marriage appointment. Another counseling session. Another funeral. Another priest board meeting. Another chapel to build. Another school to organize. Not to consider putting up with me and Father Simon at home. So I put the priesthood and the washing of the feet together. Because as we all know, when Monsignor needs prayers, he'll reveal at a time of his choosing, his health issues with his back. I don't see him bending down doing that. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll surprise us. Maybe there's going to be a miracle that's going to happen. But he'll still do it outside these doors. And the point is for all of us to do it outside these doors. We all have a friend. We all have a family member. We all have maybe a stranger. Maybe you're in an existing ministry. Maybe you need to join one, but the point is, if you are doing it right, if you're in love with Jesus, if you receive Holy Communion, if he takes possession of you, if you become divinized, if you empty yourself, you're going to want to serve. You're going to, as Christ poured himself out, you're going to want to pour yourself out. They're naturally going to follow one to the other. It's not going to be a chore. We call it a burden of love. But you're going to want to do it. God is going to animate you such. And it's going to be beautiful. For those who practice devotion of the Blessed Sacrament in the Adoration Chapel, as I mentioned it so many times at Daily Mass, when I see you in there, you inspire me. You motivate me. You encourage me. Don't think for a second that the priests on this altar, and the deacons, by the way, the deacons all give send their blessings as well. And they're welcome on this Holy Thursday as well. Don't think for a second we have a monopoly on spirituality. Because I see how some of you live your lives. I see how some of you carry your burdens. I see how some of you lift up your crosses. And I'm entirely inspired. You motivate me. You make me want to be a better priest. You make me want to wash more feet. And we should do that for each other. That's the whole purpose. To live a life consumed by God's fiery and burning love. Finally, we are all called to wash each other's feet. Let's raise the bar. Husbands to wives. Marriage is under such attack. Get help if you need help. Talk to somebody. Children to their parents. Children to their parents. We all got to make each other accountable. I encourage, what did Jesus say? Husbands, love your wives. How? The way I love the church. I poured myself out for her. She's the spotless bride. I encourage us all to find new or enter existing ways to serve in our parish, to be our brother's keeper, neighbors, family, strangers, knowing all the while that we're serving Christ. It's Christ who we serve, and to him be the glory forever and ever.